Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, let's talk about freelancing, how you can create your own side hustle through becoming a freelancer. So I brought in Aubree Malick. She is a boy mom, former teacher, host of the Freelancer to CEO podcast, recognized by Yahoo Finance as a top 10 VA coach. She helps overworked, underpaid moms and soon to be former teachers experience the freedom and joy that comes from designing a freelance business with the skills they already have. So this is a great episode. If you want to learn how to freelance, let's dive in. Hey, Aubree, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Excited to talk to you. So let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Aubree Malick. I am first and foremost a wife and a mom. I've got two little guys at home. And in my previous life, I was an elementary teacher, but I decided I wanted to step away from the classroom to be at home with my kids and have more flexibility. And so about 4 years ago, I started my freelancing business as that way to kind of have my exit strategy. And then was able to leave my teaching job within 2 months of starting that and grew and scale that. Yeah. I also, at the same time, I try to cut my story short every single time I do a podcast interview, but I was 7 months pregnant at the time. I had like all the things going on and still made it happen. Not to say that it wasn't hard, because it was, but I was really determined. And then really was looking for a way to be able to continue to grow and scale and add some more income streams into my business model, and had people naturally coming to me wanting to know how I did what I did. Like, how did you step away? How did you grow this business? So I transitioned into coaching and teaching other moms and teachers who are looking for that same freedom and flexibility, and probably have tried a lot of different things in order to make money from home, but haven't been super successful at having that consistency. So I teach them how to start, grow, and scale their freelance business.
Amazing. So you were 7 months pregnant when you did this. I think one of the big things is like, now's not the right time. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, and this is what I tell my students too, is I probably had every excuse in the book to be like, well, now's not the right time. I'll just wait until after I have my baby. I'll just wait until the summer. I'll just wait until this. I think you can find a million excuses to wait until. Yep. But when that until comes, there's probably going to be 10 more excuses as to why now is not the right time. So I am very much of the mindset that sometimes you just need to put those excuses aside and rip off the Band-Aid, because you're going to look back and think, like, even if it was hard, even if you did have a lot of things going on, you probably will look back and say, I'm so glad I started this then, because I've been able to get this off the ground, as opposed to, well, what if I would have waited? What if I would have put this off? There's, like I said, there's always going to be those excuses, but you sometimes just have to put those aside and just start.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I'm hearing a lot of now, because we're October 20th and it's like, I'll just wait until January because it's going to be crazy with Disney and December and all the things that are happening. I'm just like, it's always going to be crazy. You're never going to have the right time. And imagine if you like go all in now, like the foundation that you'll have laid and the income and the impact, the potential that you'll have going into 2023. Like so it's like, there's never a good time.
Yeah. And I'm definitely a person who, like, even for that, to me, like, knowing that a new year is coming for me, I'm somebody who works really great with deadlines. Like, that's why I feel like my business did take off as fast as it did, because I was at a point where I was 7 months pregnant. I knew that my second son was coming in December. So I started it 4 years ago in October. And I was like, I've got a 2-month window, and there's nothing like that to light a fire under me, to make me, like, to kick me into gear, to kind of, again, push those excuses aside. So I would view that as, like, for me, I love challenges. Like, if you tell me I can't do something or something's going to be hard, I'm like, watch me do this. So I would view that as like, oh, great, I've got the new year coming up. Awesome. I want to get everything in place so that when the new year comes, I can hit the ground running and not be behind the 8 ball.
Totally. Like, you could enter the new year with at least 1,000 new people on your email list and having like a killer offer. Like, there's so much you could do between now and then if you actually decide to go all in instead of pulling back and saying, I'll just wait until January.
Right. Because then January is going to come around, and there'll be something else that
there's always something. Like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this business for 5 years. And over the course of those 5 years, it's like having babies, moving overseas 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 times. Like, there's always something that happens, right? And it's just a matter of how can you be consistent and fit this in instead of waiting and putting it off, because tomorrow never happens.
Right. And I think too, like you brought up a good point about consistency. Like it doesn't mean that you have to put everything else aside and only just do this, but consistency over time is going to be way better for you and going to yield such better results. Even if it's like, I tell a lot of the women in my community, like, even if you have like, can find an hour a day, that doesn't necessarily have to be one consecutive hour, like maybe 2 30-minute blocks, or, and then, like do that for the first month, like that in and of itself will make such a big difference at moving the needle forward for you, as opposed to, well, I'm going to try this for a week and then take a couple weeks off and then come back in it again. Like just start small at first with whatever you're doing, no matter what you're working towards, and allow yourself to grow that momentum. And that will make such a difference.
Consistency is everything. It's when people like start and stop and start and stop. That's when they're wondering like, why isn't this working? Why isn't it taking off? It's like, you got to keep going. You can't just stop when you don't feel like it, or when you're tired, or when you want to go. Like there's ways you can batch and set things up so you don't have to work 24/7, but consistency is everything. I love it. So let's say we want to start our freelancing business. What's like step one? What do we do? How do we figure out what we can actually monetize, what our skills are?
Yeah. So that's actually where I tell people a lot to start. I'm sure there's a lot of other, and again, this was probably what gets people overwhelmed. There's a lot of other nitty gritty details and logistics and legalities of actually setting up your business, which is probably new for a lot of people. But really where I like to tell people, because I think this is the turning point for a lot of people, is because people will hear about freelancing. They will, maybe they've seen it online. Maybe they've, seen somebody else do it. They've been following other people online and they're like, wow, this sounds really great, but I don't even think I have any skills to get started. So I don't even want to like dive into this anymore. And that is really where I like to help people start, is figuring out what your skills are. And that can kind of go in two different directions. It can be the hard skills that you actually have. So maybe thinking about what you currently do in your current career or job. What are those things that you're doing on a daily basis? But also I think really where the sweet spot is when you think about those soft skills that you have. So what is actually like innate in you, or what are some personality traits, or what are things that people will say like, gosh, how did you figure out how to do that? Like, can you teach me? And again, there are things that we don't always recognize in ourselves as a strength, because if it comes natural or easy for us, we think, well, this must be natural or easy for everybody else to do. So I like to think of things like, are you super organized? Are you somebody that's creative? Are you somebody who can figure things out easily? Are you somebody who can take a big concept idea and break it down and explain it to somebody in a way that nobody else can? And what I encourage people to do, if you can't think of this on your own, if you can't figure out, well, what are those things that I'm naturally gifted at or talented at, ask people around you, go to your spouse, go to your friends and say, like, what are things that you recognize that is a strength of mine? What are something that I'm able to do? And that's where I like to tell people to start with the skills that you already have and allow yourself to get started there. Because again, I think people think, well, I have to know how to do all these things. I have to know everything about Pinterest, or I have to know everything about web design, or I have to know everything about social media in order to start marketing yourself. And you don't. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there. And a lot of clients that you can work with, it's not that they don't necessarily know how to do the things that they're going to be outsourcing. It's just that they don't have the time, or that certain task does not require them to be doing it in their business. They want to stay in that CEO visionary role. So they'll bring people on to do some of those things. So you start with what you know, you figure out those skills that you have that are innate in you, or things that you know how to do. And then you allow yourself to grow with time. I've had so many clients in the past where they're like, hey, do you know how to do this? And I'd be like, no, but I'm sure I can figure it out. Like, that's pretty much how I approach any situation. And so I would learn about that and be like, wow, I really love this. And I didn't even know that that was a thing that I could offer, or a skill that I had, until I started putting myself out there. And I think clarity is going to come from actually taking action, as opposed to just sitting on the sidelines and hoping that someday that information is going to fall into your lap, or it's just magically going to come to you.
Yeah. I think like coming from my perspective of someone that hires freelancers, I don't necessarily hire based off of them knowing a certain software or anything like that. I hire more on their personality and what they can learn. So like, I'll give the example of Ariana. I hired her 5 years ago as a higher level virtual assistant. She didn't know ClickFunnels. She didn't know ActiveCampaign or any of the systems I was using, but she was like, I could figure it out. And so she did. And now she has transitioned from higher level virtual assistant to our OBM, and she creates funnels for other people. Now, when she came in, she didn't know how to do it, but it was just like, I'll figure it out. And I hired her based off of her being really techie and really smart and knowing she would just figure it out.
Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of people were like, well, what do I need? Do I need a degree? Do I need all these things in order
No.
to get started? Right. And I'm like, no, I really, truly, what I feel like it comes down to, I mean, having a computer and Wi-Fi, like, yes, you do need those things. But if you have a hard work ethic, if you are willing to be resourceful and to figure things out, you can be successful. Because if you go into it with that mindset of like, I'm just going to figure it out, like no matter what comes my way, there's a YouTube video, there's a blog post, there's probably a podcast for any question that you have about what you're going to be doing and supporting clients in. If you go into that mindset, you will be successful. Because
Yeah.
that's half of the game right there. It's not all the skill set. It's like 80% mindset.
Yeah. I'm thinking of all the people that we've hired to work on our team and then that I've hired as like a coach or a mentor. Not once have I ever cared or looked to see if they had a degree or a certification.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm like,
I
can you
know,
do
which
the
makes,
job? Can you
right,
get it
which makes
done?
people,
Can you help me?
people like me who are like, and then I can go, on my little spiel about college and everything like that. But sitting here, I'm like, I've got my master's degree,
Me
and
too.
and it's like, I mean, I definitely am using it. That's one thing that as I transition into more of this coach educator in the online space, like, yes, I am using that degree. It looks different than probably what I imagined when I got it too. But yes, absolutely. I think you're so right. I am the same way when I hire people. I am more looking for somebody who can figure things out, who's willing to take initiative, jump on in, and like that we have a good vibe with each other too.
Yep.
I'm like, again, I'm an educator by heart. So I know I could teach anybody anything. Like I could create a quick Loom video if somebody's like, well, I don't know how to do that, but I could figure it out. Like I could create a Loom video, or I could have, send them some resources to figure things out. But if you have that mindset of, I'm just going to go in and put in the work and figure things out, you will make it happen.
For sure. I'm just thinking right now of like, we're looking to hire somebody on our team to come in as a setter to help with our sales team. And as I'm talking to somebody, she served in Iraq in the army. And I'm like, that tells me more about your personality than like our actual interview itself. Like, yeah, the interview is important, seeing the resume and all that stuff is important. But I'm like, the fact that you served for 6 years and did this, this, and this, I'm like, that tells me you have tenacity. That tells me like you're a go-getter, that you're not afraid to take risks. So it's like, the personality is what I'm more looking for, as opposed to like, oh, you've never done setting before. That's fine. You can learn because you have this, right? Like this is really valuable.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of freelancing jobs that some of your students have gone into? Because we hear it and we're like, okay, what could that actually look like?
Yeah. So a lot of people who get started, like I said, a lot of them are moms, a lot of them are teachers. So they don't always have that natural transition from what they're doing in their full-time career to like what they could be doing online, right? So I have some people who come in and they're doing marketing, they're doing social media, they're doing web design for their full-time job, and they just want to translate that over and start offering that as a service, as one-to-one, doing it as their own business as opposed to doing it for their current job. But for some people who are like, well, I don't know what that avenue is for me, or that direct correlation, a lot of them start out, like you were mentioning too, like your first hire, start out as that virtual assistant and start offering. Usually I recommend like 2 to 3 kind of buckets of services so that they can get their feet wet and figure out what it is that they like. I remember when I first got started, I was like, well, I'm going to do a little bit of admin. I'm going to do a little bit of social media and some light, and I'm doing like really light air quotes here, graphic design, because I did not have any training, but I knew I could create a graphic in Canva. And that was really helpful for me because of course, like I was like, well, I know how to be on social media. I know how to post, so I can do this. So I went with that. But until I got into it, I didn't realize that I wouldn't really love it. So a lot of people start out kind of putting their hands in a few different places at first to figure out what they like and maybe what they don't like. I think that that's a really, even if you start offering something, you're like, wow, I thought I was going to love this, but I didn't. And I wasted all this time. I'm like, no, you actually, that's moving you forward to the thing that you would really love to offer to clients. So I think that that's important place to start. So that's what a lot of people do. But of course, there are so many different avenues that you can take when it comes to supporting business owners, and not even online business owners. I know a lot of people, even my parents, they opened up a pharmacy a few years ago, and they needed somebody to design their website. They needed somebody to design their logo. And I was like, great, I have these bank of people that can support you, and you can just hire to do that project, as opposed to my mom, who knows what she's doing when it comes to pharmacy, but has no idea what she's doing when it comes to website design. So you can help online businesses, you can help local businesses. I've had students who are like, I have a super booming downtown, like small business, local business that I really want to help them. Like none of them have an online presence. Like I want to help them come online. So you can go that route, or you can go the route of figuring out what you want to specialize in. So Pinterest is a really highly sought after service. Again, business owners like know they need to be on Pinterest. They know they need to be doing it, but some of them are like, I don't know what I'm doing over there, or I don't need to take the time to figure it out. Podcast management. So I outsource all of my podcasts. I show up and I record, and then I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to worry about editing, doing the show notes. Blog writing is a really great one. Any kind of copy, anytime you see words that a business is using on their social media, on their website, you can do that. And I really like to tell people you can kind of fall into 3 different categories. So either any type of admin work, any type of tech work, or any type of creative work, and then figure out what you want to do from there.
Yeah. Okay. So we figure out kind of the area we want to go. How do we find our first clients?
So my answer might surprise you and maybe some of your listeners too, but this is what I recommend to all of my students because it's what I did at first. And I think it's something that's totally undervalued. People don't even think about going this route. They're like, oh, I need to create a website and I need to be on all these social media platforms. And I remind them, have you ever thought about reaching out to your personal network? Have you ever thought about sharing what you're doing when you run into somebody at a grocery store? Like when somebody asks you, hey, what's new? What have you been up to? Instead of saying, oh, nothing, or same old, same old. Hey, I started this new business. I'm going to be helping business owners with their social media. I'm really excited about it. You don't have to go into this whole pitch and try to sell them, but let them ask you questions. So the very first thing that I did before I even had anything set up, again, like I am a go-getter. I take like no breaks. And so the first thing I did was I posted on my personal Facebook page and just explained what I was doing. I explained what a virtual assistant was so that people, if they didn't know, they would have some frame of reference. And I just asked like, hey, if you know of anybody who might need a virtual assistant, can you send them my way? Or even if you would just share this on your page, like it would mean so much to me. And from there, I had a person who in my mind, I didn't even consider this person as a viable client. Like I didn't even make that connection, but she saw that and she reached out to me and she's like, hey, I have this business that I've been growing. I really need to hire somebody, but I'm having so much trouble because it's my baby and I don't know who to trust. And I know you and I know the work that you will do. So would you come help me for 10 hours a week? That's how I first got started. So I usually will run these challenges within my groups of like, this week, you're going to make a post on your personal page, or you're going to share with somebody that you're doing this like in your area. Again, it's not always about who you know, it's about who they might know, right? They might be able to make that connection. And I think that's the way that you have to go into it in your business. Is it's not always about who can I pitch or who can I sell. That is an important piece of it, but who can I have a conversation with that could eventually lead to something, or just even grow my network, because it's really about building relationships with people. People buy from people. So if you are having conversations with people, if you are letting people know what you're doing, it might not be an immediate like, oh, they're going to hire me tomorrow, but it might eventually lead to something down the road. And because you shared about that, because you let that person know, now that's in their head, that's a seed that you've planted, and they might be able to connect you with your next client.
Yeah. Okay, so we found our niche, we got some clients. Now we might have too many clients. How do we handle the demand and then transition from being a freelancer to a CEO?
Yeah. So one of the first natural progressions that I like to tell people to do, I am definitely a proponent of having multiple income streams. And I know like passive income is super sexy and everybody talks about it. And I can't really say anything negative about it because that was the natural route that I took. But before I did that, the first thing that I did was I specialized in what I was going to offer. So instead of being the person that could do a little bit of everything for everyone, I figured out what is the service that I want to learn pretty much everything that there is to know about this so that I can get really great results for my clients. And because I get really great results for my clients, I can charge a premium price for that. So that's usually the first thing that I recommend that you do is figure out what is going to be that service that you're going to go all in on. If that's podcast management, great. So you become known as that person who helps people launch and manage their podcast. If that's going to be the web design person, like I am the person who will design amazing show it websites for you. And you become known for that, because I think a lot of people think, well, I have to offer everything to everyone in order to find these clients. And really my marketing became so much easier when I was known for what I did, as opposed to being like, well, what does she do? Does she still offer that? I'm not sure. It was a while ago that she was offering that, so she might not, as opposed to being like, nope, that's what she does. That's what she talks about. That's what she markets. That's what she shares content about. So that's usually what I recommend people do, is really like scale back your business in order to scale it more. Because again, if you're known for the thing that you do, you're going to be able to charge a lot more than just a VA who's, charging $20, $25, $30 an hour. You're going to be able to charge a lot more premium price, because you're bringing a lot of value to that client. And you don't have to go into it like, well, I'm not sure how to do that, I can figure it out. You can be like, yes, absolutely. That's what I do. I know exactly how to do it. And here's the results that we're going to get you from that.
Love it. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
What does it mean to make an impact? Oh, I hope I don't get emotional on this one.
If you do, it's fine. I get emotional all the time.
Okay. When I first started my business, it was really a means to an end. Again, my dream job was to be a mom. I knew that wasn't going to be like, I thought it wasn't going to be possible to be the mom that I wanted to be, that was there for my kids, that were, that could, at a drop of a hat, like go and take a day off with them or go to the park just because it was so beautiful. I knew that I always had to work, and I also really wanted to contribute and set goals for myself, but the traditional 9 to 5 really just didn't allow me to do that. I constantly felt like I was fighting an uphill battle of wanting to be there for my kids, but then also, again, as a teacher, like wanting to be there for my students. And so when I started my business, I was really happy that I was able to have that, but I realized that I actually had more of an impact to make, in that I could help other moms who were feeling that same struggle of feeling like there's no other option. It's either or. I either have a successful job and I feel like my family's suffering at home and my kids don't really get to see me or don't get the best of me, or I'm at home with my kids and, maybe we're struggling financially, or maybe I don't feel like I have a purpose outside of it. And I'm really super passionate about inspiring moms and teaching them that they can have both, that it doesn't have to be this either or fight anymore. And I've also my parents both worked outside the home my entire life. I've seen the impact that it's had on my boys' life for me to be at home with them and to be a present mom and to be able to have that flexibility, and also for them to get to witness what it looks like to work hard and to achieve things and to build this thing from the ground up. So I'm so passionate about helping moms to have that life where they can be present in the home, they can have that impact on their kids, which will ultimately, like as my boys grow up and as all these moms who are coming home and are contributing to their family financially, but also by being present, the impact that it's going to make on our future generation.
Yes. What's one of the best books you've read?
Oh gosh. Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction. I just recently finished Tribes and I really like it. I was sent to me from a mentor of mine, and it just, again, reiterated what I'm trying to do about creating this tribe, and really leading from example. I think leadership is not one of my strengths as a business owner. I come from that education space, that teacher space, where I'm a people pleaser and I don't
I have at least 3 leadership books right here on my desk.
Yes. You have to send me those, because yes. I know I need that. And as my business continues to grow and as I bring on team members, like it's like very clear to me that that is a weakness of mine. But yeah, I really liked that book.
John Maxwell, 5 Levels of Leadership and 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership would be my 2 recommendations.
Awesome.
These are 3 John Maxwell leadership books that I have right here. And then I have another one out there.
Right. And he has a podcast too, correct?
He got everything.
Yeah.
He's everything everywhere. He's got like 90 plus books. He's incredible.
Okay. I will add that to my either Audible. I toss back and forth between Audible because it's a little bit more convenient for me, but I love having hard copy books. Like I love being able to highlight and add notes. So
I would do both because I would be reading these for at least the second or third time, these ones specifically. So it's nice to have both.
Yeah, for sure.
Where can we connect with you?
I make it super easy for you. So pretty much Aubree Malick on any of the platforms, aubreemalick.com. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. That's actually my preferred social media to hang out on, which seems very strange for me to even let those words fall out of my mouth. But I found my special place over there. And then I have a podcast. It's called Freelancer to CEO. And if you're looking to just learn a little bit more about freelancing, maybe dive in a little bit deeper to what we talked about today, I have a free training, completely free class for you to learn a little bit more, especially on the skills area that we talked about, if that's something that you feel like, I don't even know where to begin. So you can find that at aubreemalick.com/free training.
Cool. Aubree, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rachel.